Westinghouse was not all work and no play. It was said that he loved the theater, music, and a good, clean joke, although he claimed that solving mechanical problems relaxed him. When not working, he spent most of his time with his biggest supporter and closest friend, his wife, Marguerite. At the time of his very first patents in 1867, even before the air brake, George Westinghouse Jr. met Marguerite Erskine Walker by chance on a railroad train.
George Westinghouse met his wife Marguerite on a train ride. He was on the Hudson River Railroad heading towards Schenectady. Now, he was not a smoker, so he passed up some available seats in a smoking car and went on back to another car, and there was an available seat beside a very attractive young woman. And he struck up a conversation with her, and he really liked this young lady. And just before he deboarded, since he was getting off before her, he wrote down the names and addresses of 3 friends of his family so that Marguerite could write to those folks so they could attest to the good character of George Westinghouse. When he returned home, he immediately went to the local minister and friend of the family and had him write a letter to Marguerite, again attesting to the good character of George Westinghouse. Today, we've kind of gotten away from that practice. But he went home that night and told his mother and father that he had met the young lady that day that he was going to marry. And within a year, he and Marguerite were married, and they had a very long and fruitful marriage. He always considered Marguerite to be his very best supporter. She supported his ideas no matter how wild they really were.
The two honeymooned at Niagara Falls, a location that would prove to be an important one later in the career of Mr. Westinghouse. They had a happy relationship. It was said when they were on the same continent, they talked every single day over the telephone, and when separated by the Atlantic Ocean, would send a daily cable message. It seems amazing that at first George could not afford to move Marguerite to Pittsburgh. In the early days of the air brake, before it really took off, she lived in Schenectady with his parents. When the money began to flow, he bought her a home in the affluent Homewood district of Pittsburgh in 1871. They added on to the old house, which became a luxurious dwelling, and dubbed it Solitude. A substantial lawn and gardens would grow, along with their substantial fortune.
The Westinghouses only had one child, George Westinghouse III. He was born 16 years after they were married. Now, when they were married, George Westinghouse was 20. His wife, Marguerite, was 24, which means then that when she had their only child, she was 40 years old.
As George Westinghouse III grew up, he spent a lot of time at their summer home near Lenox, Massachusetts. It became a favorite of Mrs. Westinghouse. In the days before energy conservation, it boasted 1,500 light bulbs and the world's first lighted tennis court. The massive estate even had the world's first private alternating current power plant to supply the electricity.